Leading Authentically session 2022. So today we're going to be having Mr. Haris, and he'll be speaking on leading with the spiritual essence. So it's a great privilege to have him because of the topic is not complicated, but the topic is a bit complex. So it's not religion in that essence, it's not spirituality in the essence of religion, but having to have a deeper purpose for why we are leading. So I'm going to be heading up very soon, and then we're going to begin. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Let's go. So thank you so much for joining. Okay, so just joined us. So we're going to heading up right now, and then we're going to begin now. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Okay. Okay.
Good
Yeah,
evening.
hello, sir. Good evening.
Pleasure to see you.
Same here. Thank you so much, sir. I'm really grateful. Really grateful
Thank
for
you.
this
Thank
privilege.
you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, the pleasure is mine.
Okay, so I think I had a lot of people saying, "Oh, Mr. This man is a very handsome man, very handsome." I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's very handsome." So, so everyone is happy to see your face, yeah,
Thank
and they're still going to be joining. Okay, so I would briefly introduce you, and then, so Mr. Aris is a coach and emotional coach, and I saw one of a video, and I thought to myself that I needed to speak to you about having you to speak on leading authentically, which has to do with leading with a spiritual accent. So thank you so much. So I'm going to open the floor and then you speak briefly on the topic and then we'll ask the question.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And for people who've joined in, thank you very much for being a part of this session. And it is always a pleasure. And Miracle, thank you very much for inviting me here. And I think you're doing a wonderful job, especially related to the youth. And I think in today's times, if you look at it, we are moving at such a fast pace. And the fast pace obviously brings in lots of opportunity to get distracted also. So I think, sharing those insights on leadership, on life, on spirituality, on self-development, I think is extremely important because these small nuggets of wisdom, these small nuggets of knowledge is something that keeps any person, especially the youth
Mm.
in today's world, it helps them be on track because change is something that has always been there throughout. If I even read history, change has always been there. But the pace of change is extremely different. And today we are all at a fast pace. So I think
Mm.
very important is how to handle that entire pace, how to ensure that we remain on track. And the most important thing is how do we remain connected with the right people? Because it's very easy to get influenced in today's world. And I always tell people,
Yeah.
today, the times are such that getting angry, irritated, or frustrated is very easy. And to feel happy, joyful, excited, enthusiastic is a little challenging for people. And I think it's time to reverse that completely. And I think
Mm.
true human life is when we feel these emotions of joy, happiness in a much more easier way. And getting angry, irritated, and frustrated must be absolutely difficult. So when I talk about leadership, when I talk about spirituality in leadership, it's all about living life in such a way that when people look up to you, they not only understand leadership, they understand humanity in true sense.
Wow.
And I'm sure that's exactly why we are here and talking about it.
Mm. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's really powerful. Thank you so much. So, I would want you to give briefly on what does it mean to lead with a spiritual accent? What does it mean to lead with a spiritual accent?
So before I come to that answer, a very important thing to keep in mind is to define spirituality itself. Because today, if you look at in the entire world, the word spirituality is so big and so broad that it can actually fit in tremendous thousands and thousands of perspectives. And with
Mm.
so many options of perspective, one can really get confused with spirituality itself. And if you even Google it up, you will get so many various, different definitions of spirituality itself. And of course, the common theme that runs when we talk about spirituality, it's a relationship more to do with the human spirit and probably the soul itself, and a little to do with the materialistic and the physical things. But a lot of people also confuse this statement, and they assume that spirituality is detaching from the spiritual, from the physical world. It's not. It's all about remaining in the physical dimension. It's all about being in connect with the materialistic world and yet enriching the human experience. Also,
Wow.
the definition is, which clearly talks about spirituality, is that it's clearly something which is much deeper and something which is much bigger than the self. And that's one way of looking at spirituality. So leadership with spiritual essence predominantly means it's not about you as a leader, it's bigger than you, it's something much deeper. So when you start leading, even as a youngster, when you start leading, keeping humanity in mind, keeping the human empowerment in mind, which is much bigger than you, is all about leading with spiritual essence. So it's all about the joy of serving others, and it's all about the joy of giving. Once a person has that intention while they enter the roles of leadership, that is exactly what I call as leading with a spiritual essence. Because a lot of times when we talk about spirituality and leadership, people tend to get confused with religion in one way or the other. And I tell them it has nothing to do with that. It's all about the joy of giving and the joy of serving. So if as a leader or as a potential leader, you have this intention of really serving other people, that in true essence is leadership with a spiritual essence.
Wow. 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 Thank you so much. So, I think I would like to ask a question about that. So globally, we have a lot of definition for spirituality and all that. And how about those who are very religious? How do they get balance between being religious and being spiritual?
So, an important point to understand over here is spirituality and religion can either be called as two separate things or two different things, or there is a common link between both of them. But religion is not spirituality, and spirituality in totality is not religion. Now, where the confusion starts predominantly for a lot of people in the world is a lot of people feel spirituality is a part of religion. What they need to understand is religion is a very small part of spirituality. Spirituality is that magnanimous in nature. But of course, when we talk about religion, it does have spiritual essence in it. In my opinion and in my experience, that part of religion, and it doesn't matter what religion, we don't want to get into names here, because once we get into names, then it is no longer spiritual. And that's a very important point over here. So that part of the religion which talks about love, which talks about being gentle, which talks about caring for other people, which talks about love and only love no matter what. Now, that part of religion is actually spiritual in nature. That part of the religion is actually spirituality in practice. But that part of the religion which talks about mine is better than yours, or that part of the religion which now creates that confusion in in ethnic groups, which creates confusion when we talk about the color of the skin. Now that part of the religion, which is actually nothing but an ignorant way of looking at religion, is a non-spiritual dimension of religion. So today, if you look at the entire world, there are a lot of fights which are predominantly happening related to power. Even what we are looking at, war and everything, it's related to power, or it is related to religion misinterpreted. Religion is a beautiful thing, but when the misinterpretation of religion happens, that part of the religion actually becomes non-spiritual in nature. So the time we look at leadership, or the time we look at spiritual leadership without the filter of religion, without the filter of the color of the skin, without the filter of the labels of ethnicity, without the filter of nationality also, now that becomes in true sense spiritual leadership. Because you're looking at a person, humanity first, everything else is later. I always tell people that religion was created for simplicity. However, today
Mm.
has become so complex. That is why we say we live in a VUCA world. All right. So if we say VUCA world, we have words like being volatile, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, spiritual
Mm.
leadership is nothing but leadership which actually brings in the opposite of VUCA. So where things are
Mm.
volatile, can you actually bring in stability? When things are, complex, you bring in simplicity. When things are uncertain, you bring in certainty. And of course, when things are ambiguous, you bring in clarity. So if anybody can bring in the opposite of VUCA in today's times, is actually somebody who's practicing spiritual leadership in one way or the other. So once again, to keep in mind, you can be religious, no problem. However, spirituality has nothing to do with religion. No matter what religion you are a part of. See, when we are born itself, we've been given that label of religion. The
Mm.
problem is when people get into the entire dimension of which one is better. And even people get into the concept of whose God is better. Now, we also believe God is one. Now, if we all believe God is one with just different names, how can we even get into the argument that which one is better? And for me,
Mm.
it's always been, it doesn't matter. You take me to a church, you take me to a mosque, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we know it's just that one place, and all of these places have only promoted love. However, when the game comes in for power and control, there are enough people who can
Mm.
misrepresent the same thing and present it in a different way. Of course, practicing authentic spirituality without religion is a little challenging today, and challenging not because it's a difficult practice. It's only because since our childhood, we've been programmed in a particular way.
Mm.
So it's not about fighting people's beliefs. It's just about realizing. Like if somebody comes and talks to me about religion, I don't have to fight. I don't have to prove anything. I only have to respect the other person because that person
Mm.
is coming in with that set of beliefs. However, whether it is an organization, whether it is the political parties of different countries, as a leader, if I'm able to look at everyone as a human first, I will be able to detach from the negative part of religion or the misinterpreted part of religion and only practice the pure essence of religion, which is actually spiritual practice. And I think that's what is really
Wow.
required. Once again, while I'm talking about this, I'm not asking people to go ahead and start challenging people. I'm asking to only smile and understand, because spirituality is not about blind followership. Spirituality
Mm.
is all about being flexible. Spirituality gives you more freedom. Spirituality makes you detach from rigidity in life and not being blind. I always tell people, don't accept anything blindly and don't reject anything blindly. If you're here,
Wow.
if you're here to explore the human dimension, that in true sense would be a spiritual life.
Wow. Wow. I think I need to write that. You said, do not accept anything blindly and do not reject anything blindly.
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so I think I want to actually come back to reality where we would apply this in life. So I have a conflict with let's say a president of an association, and then at that point I was very confused about what it meant to really lead authentically spiritually, and at the same time what it really means to be a human. When I mean a human in that sense of us, the other side of humans, when we're in anger, when we're in pain. So in that place, how do we get to lead spiritually at that moment when we're in pain, when we're in anger, to show forth how we feel, which we know that that feeling could be harmful to the other person? How do we get to balance it at that moment?
Beautiful. So, first thing that everyone should understand is no matter where we come from, challenges are an integral part of our life.
Mm.
Happily lived ever after are only good in storybooks. And that's one thing that everybody has to understand. So, challenges are an integral part of our life, and emotional balance. Understanding
Mm.
emotions is nothing but a part of spirituality. So, when we talk about balancing emotions and spirituality, you really don't have to balance it, because living a spiritual life actually means balancing your mind, body, emotions together.
Wow.
Not just yours, but understanding others' emotions is an integral part of the entire spiritual path. Because when I say spirituality is all about serving other people and ensuring that you're giving the best to other people, that can only happen when we understand others' emotions and our own emotions. Understanding emotions and managing emotions is a very integral part of leadership and integral part of human life itself. And that is why we all need to understand that emotions, in fact, if I look at the entire flow, when I say a flow, we have thoughts. Thoughts produces an emotion. Emotion impacts the physical body and the behavior. Emotions have a lot of charge. So whenever we emote or whenever we feel emotions, we actually radiate these emotions outside also. And that is why, see, when people say, when we experience anger, sadness, what can I do? Now, even anger and sadness is actually a powerful emotion. Like if you look at a
Wow.
child expresses anger very quickly. In fact, that is the prime emotion. If the child does not get food, does not get the mother's milk, the child expresses anger,
Wow.
then cry. The expression of anger is a prime emotion. Similarly, the expressions of joy,
Wow.
the expressions of love is a very prime emotion. So every human should understand and experience the entire spectrum of emotion. However, when we feel an emotion, whether that emotion is helping or not is extremely important. Like if I'm getting angry. Now, the good news is no emotion can remain at its peak for more than 90 to 180 seconds. This is pure psychology and how the human
Wow.
system works. Like if somebody feels extremely angry, you cannot remain in that state of anger for 2 or 3 days. Otherwise, you will be hospitalized and you will die also. Why? The emotion will subside. The ability of a human to acknowledge that they are angry at this point in time and to realize that in this state of anger, marking an email or having a conversation with somebody will only cause pain. So what we need to do is just take a pause, allow that emotions to settle, and then move ahead with an action is actually being mindful and also helps you walk on the spiritual path. So if you look at spirituality itself, the practices that one has to really get into manages the entire emotions. Now, of course, another thing that everyone should understand is your emotions are like the seeds that you sow in the most fertile land accessible to you, and that is called as your subconscious mind. And even the Bible has clearly said, what you sow is what you reap. The Bible has said, the Quran has said, the Gita has said, every religious book has said that, and we actually sow it through our emotions. And that is why being aware of our own emotions and to keep channelizing them in a better way is not only about emotional intelligence. In fact, that is also spiritual intelligence. So spirituality
Wow.
is all about continuous progress in life. I always tell people the one way of knowing that you're walking the spiritual path or not is to see whether you're having continuous progress in all areas of your life. If you are progressing, that means you are not only managing your emotions well, in fact, you're walking the spiritual path. So, in my opinion, leading with spiritual essence and managing your emotions are one and the same. They belong to one category. So when you do tell a lot of people uh, the meaning of the word experience, I ask a lot of people, does experience make things better? And a lot of people say, yes, experience makes things better. And I ask a simple question that means if you're married, that means every year in your marriage, your love and romance is getting better and better. Ideally, that is what should happen.
Wow.
People tend to laugh at this point and say, hey, that doesn't happen. And I tell them, then what is your definition of experience? Experience is not about how many days you've spent on Mother Earth. It's not about how many years you've spent. It's all about what have you done with the days that you've had. Because time is an unbiased resource. You might be the richest man on earth or the poorest man on earth. We all have 24 hours in a day. So the question is, how beautifully you manage your emotions in that time defines how beautifully you live life. That understanding and that practice is none other than spiritual way of living life. Or a spiritual way of leading life. Whether you lead yourself or you lead
Self,
a group of
you leave it.
people or an entire country, it's one and the same, because it all starts by leading yourself first.
Wow, wow. This is really interesting. Thank you so, so much. So
Pleasure.
I think we're almost gonna be rounding up very soon, and then
Sure.
I want to ask a question that how does leading with spiritual excellence affect our lives and those around us, and especially at the workplace? How does it really affect people and us as an individual?
See, see, if we define spirituality as as an art or a connection where you are actually looking at empowering other people with that intention. Now imagine if you are with people who only want to empower you, even if you've had a terrible past, you will have a
Hmm.
beautiful future. Like we all
Wow.
like we all say that we cannot change our past, but we all can learn from the past, and we
Hmm.
can ensure that our future is better. And that is why, if you look at true leadership, these are people who genuinely want to serve other people. And if you are around such people, even if you do nothing, you will still change in life. Why? Because the energy of those people will naturally change you as a human being. It's like taking a fast train. Even if you don't do anything, you are going to reach places because you've taken the right train and it's a fast train, so you will accelerate in life. So even
Hmm.
being connected with such people will enhance our own vibration, because
Wow.
the vibratory frequency of these people are so different. And that is why I tell people that leadership is not just about what you teach or what you preach. It's about the way you are as a person, the way
Wow.
as a human, the way you are as a leader. Even your own presence at your home and at your work should change the energy of that place itself. And in that energy, the kind of people who are working will naturally change their mindset. And that's why we've always noticed that under the presence, or in the presence of a powerful leader, a spiritual leader, you will naturally transform. There is no way on earth you will be in a comfort zone or stuck in in any kind of phase in life. You will keep transforming. Why? Because you are in that state and that energy. So any human being who's walking this path will naturally impact the workplace, the home, and in short, they will produce people who will actually add value to this entire planet. And I always tell people that the goal of every human being should be to leave this place better than what it was when you were born.
Hmm.
And see, because the simple goal for every human being is, once we are born, and I tell this to people, once you are born, we all are moving towards death. That's
Hmm.
a simple goal, right? Once we are born, we all are moving towards death. The only goal for every person is what? In the journey in between, you ensure that every person's life is getting better just by
Hmm.
being connected with you. Like I always ask people, and especially when I'm coaching leaders, I ask them an important question. When you step in that workplace, if you're a part of an organization, what changes in the entire environment? Just because of your presence, are people more motivated? Are people more inspired? Do people laugh more? Similarly, as a
Hmm.
leader, when you reach home, you're not a leader. That title is gone. You're now a father, you're now a husband, you're now a friend. When you enter home, does the environment of your home gets better? Do people feel more
Hmm.
lively? Do people laugh more? Because if you genuinely want to give the best to other people, even your presence itself will change the energy of your home, will change the energy of your work, will change the energy of the society that you live in.
Wow. Thank you so much. This is really powerful. Thank you so, so much. Okay, so um, I think we're just going to round up here. And before we round up, I'm going to ask you questions. And the first question is, in few words, what would you tell young leaders the true meaning of leadership in your experience?
Miracle, I would like to answer this question with what I started with, and the true meaning of leadership is the true experience of joy of giving. And I'm
Hmm.
talking
Let
about
me say that again.
not just concept.
Please say that again.
You know, so the true meaning of leadership is the true experience of the joy of giving. And why am I saying this? If you look at human life, it all starts with wanting. A child is only interested in wanting. I want my toy, I want my food, I want this, I want that. The child is not bothered about emotions of the parents. However, as in when the child grows, and if at all the child matures well, they now understand the joy of receiving and the joy of giving. For example, like somebody, a leader joins, or a potential leader joins an organization, or someone who gets married. It's not just about what I will receive, it's about what I will give. And if this balance is there, you will always be a tremendous asset to that particular entity. However, after few years, if one matures well, typically like a very matured grandparent, they are not worried about what I will get. They are only, thinking about what I will give. Even if they have something, they would love to give it to their children, because the joy of seeing their children joyful is
Wow.
more joyful than their own receiving. Now that is the beauty of leadership. And the good
Wow.
is, it is not dependent on age. It can happen at the age of 10, it can happen at the age of 15, it can happen at the age of what Miracle is right now, because he is impacting, young leaders, and it's the joy of giving. And I always tell people, once you experience the joy of giving, you are actually walking the path of leadership. The title is not required, the ego is no longer required. Just the joy of giving is authentic, pure spiritual leadership. So, even from today, and let me also give you a secret out. The secret to become successful and the secret to become rich is the amount of value you add in other people's life. And that's why, if from today, each one of the viewers over here and people who will watch this video later also, if you ask yourself, how can I give the best to other people? Trust me, receiving will happen by default. And that, my experience, in my knowledge, is true, authentic, pure leadership.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm really glad that I had you live on this section. I'm really, really glad. I don't know, it really changed my focus. There was a mind shift about leadership, and I think it's really better. Let me say something like this. The true meaning of leadership is when it is a true experience joy of giving.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So now, for our last, before we let our speakers go, we always ask this last question so that we're gonna cut this and then put like a rails for those to watch. In few words, what would you say is living with spiritual excellence is? In few words.
Few words for, I'm sorry, few words for.
In few words, what would you say is leading with spiritual excellence is?
The only
Few words.
thing I would like to talk about it from a very broader perspective, and the broader perspective
Okay.
here is, I would like each one of you to just keep one thing in mind.
Hmm.
Every morning when you open your eyes, the biggest success, bigger than anything in your life, is you are alive. And if you cannot feel that every morning, and remember, if you are alive, that means the universe has given you another opportunity to serve better, to become a better human being, and to add value to this entire planet. This particular intention every morning and your actions to be in alignment with this intention is absolutely true, in true sense, spiritual way of living and spiritual way of leading. So there's no
Wow.
guarantee about life, friends. I don't know whether I'll be alive tomorrow, but the only thing that I can actually keep in mind is, till the time I'm alive, I have been given an opportunity to serve people. With that intention, trust me, you will only progress in life. And that's
Wow.
important for all of them to keep in mind.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Really, really grateful. And then we're hoping that one day we'll have you in Nigeria. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I know one day have you physically here in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Hoping to see you all soon. And if at all I come to Nigeria, we all will connect. But in the meanwhile, People like Miracle are doing a wonderful job. Stay connected with people like them, because as I told you, in a world where there is a lot of confusion, you need an anchor at times to be on the right path. And people like him will ensure that you are on the right path. Stay connected with people like him, stay connected with people like me. And of course, down the line, many more people would be connected with people like you, potential leaders who would actually make this world a beautiful place. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much, sir.
Beautiful.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.
Bye.